With a staggering 95% knockout rate, Carlos Zarate hit much harder than anyone could expect from any weight class. Yet, he competed at 118 pounds. Hailing from Mexico City, Mexico, Zarate was a bantamweight wrecking ball. Ranked among the greatest punchers of all time by Ring Magazine, Zarate stands as the only boxer in history to have two separate stretches of 20 or more consecutive knockouts. At one point, he had 0 losses, 52 wins, and 51 knockouts. This insane power stretched all the way back to his amateur days, where he had 30 knockouts and 33 wins. Across his 70-fight campaign, he defended the world title 8 times, and faced the best competition of his era. He ended his career with 66 wins, 63 of which were by KO. So, how did he do this? Well, there's one thing that I noticed Zarate did exceptionally well. Zarate has near the best sense of positioning I've ever seen in a fighter. And I personally would credit his abilities in this area as the main reason he was able to achieve such an astonishingly high knockout rate. In other words, Zarate placed his punches like an expert marksman, always at the correct distance and angle to not only reach the target, but shatter through it. Being at the right place at the right time not only meant Zarate hit harder, it meant he hit more often and hit first. If you've ever wondered why some fighters throw the technically correct counters but still don't land, or maybe that's you in sparring, the problem might not be speed or timing. The problem might be bad positioning. Bad positioning could leave you in spots where it's hard to find routes for your punches to travel to their mark unobstructed. Zarate definitely did not have this problem. We've talked about footwork positions dozens, if not hundreds of times on this channel, but today we're going more in depth into upper body positioning, which we'll call posture. Posture is a critical factor that can move a fighter closer to their target or allow them to whip shots around the opponent's guard or through it. It's just as important to think about which posture you use to set up a punch as it is to pick the right punch to throw. Posture includes head position, but also takes into account things like how forward or narrow your shoulders are, if your torso is straight or curled up, and many more positional factors that are crucial to determining where you can hit your opponent and where you're vulnerable to getting hit. So let's list off which positions Zarate used for which of his incredible punches, then explain how he did things a little differently than most. To start, Zarate was terrific at dipping left to reach around the opponent's guard, gaining that extra leverage and reach for his crippling liver punches. He would take this same route with lead hooks to the head, often doubling or tripling the left hand to whichever target was exposed. A dip to the right was almost as lethal, but especially against southpaws, since they're wide open on that side against an opponent with an opposite stance. Notice how much Zarate likes to tilt his upper body sideways rather than crouch or lean, just like Iron Mike Tyson. Think of a windshield wiper going back and forth. This motion guaranteed he wasn't just set up for hooks, he was naturally aligned for powerful uppercuts, regardless of which side he slipped to. Tilting to the left or right aligned one of Zarate's shoulders so that his glove could shoot straight through the middle. This worked great for counters too, letting him slip sideways then come up underneath his opponent's straights. Staying more centered, Zarate could bend far forward at the hips, stepping in deep and cheating his shoulders forward. He could stab opponent's midsection with straights. But Zarate had a much more potent and unusual attack from near the same motion. After a level change, he would shoot up with a stout, rising lead hand punch. You can think of this like a long uppercut, a rising jab, or an upper jab. It came from underneath the opponent's line of sight, like a shark leaping out of dark waters to attack the opponent's jaw. You could find more info on this attack in my video on 50 ways to throw a jab. Now Zarate was capable of keeping upright from time to time, standing tall when throwing straights to the head. The adjustment here came through footwork, using subtle steps towards the opponent's open side to line up his right. So those are all the basic positions that Zarate used to absolutely wreck the competition. While he was using bread and butter boxing, what was unique was that he could take such extreme postures and remain sure-footed, staying balanced like his boots were bolted to the canvas. The transfer of weight between these positions added a lot of power to Zarate's punches. This was a total nightmare scenario for most of Zarate's competition. Their elusive foe hitting them in ways they thought impossible over and over and over with no room to breathe. If you'd like more details about these tactics, check out my book, Aggressive Defense. Zarate didn't just excel at finding the right posture, he also punished his opponent's posture. He used hooks to prevent them from dipping left or right. And when opponents tried to crouch, he'd crack them back into a straight alignment, like an enraged chiropractor. And he didn't just punish head movement, but footwork as well. Anytime an opponent tried to pivot, Zarate shot a pursuing hook. The textbook tactic would be to throw in the opposite direction to cut them off. But many boxers just roll these punches or hide behind their lead shoulder. So, Zarate did the unexpected and punched their open side in the same direction they were headed. In these moments, you can really tell just how hard he hit, because even when the opponent was moving away from the punch, it would still put them on their heels if it connected. Speaking of footwork, and I can't help myself, none of these tactics would have worked if Zarate didn't keep the correct distance. His fluid, bouncy footwork wasn't typical for a knockout artist, but it let him quickly adjust distance in any direction on the fly, ensuring he had the right distance and angle for his posture to do its work. Plus, it kept him defensively sound, allowing him to move back and forth at the very edge of his opponent's range so he could make them miss, often punishing them for it. Zarate stayed undefeated with 52 wins, 51 of them by knockout, until he moved up in weight to face the terrifying Wilfredo Gomez, who himself enjoyed a record of 21 wins with 21 knockouts and no losses. And it was Gomez who revealed a major weakness in Zarate's style. The way Zarate shifted his weight by leaning his posture further than most helped with angles and power, but the trade-off was that he had no real base of support that could keep him grounded when he got hit. Think of how much easier it is to push something heavy over if it's already leaning to one side. Gomez had the guts to throw with Zarate, and when his intercepting punches hit, they landed on someone who was off balance and throwing full force, amplifying the power of Gomez's already crushing blows. Gomez punished Zarate's leaning uppercuts with intercepting hooks. The fight didn't last long, and is definitely worth a watch. Afterwards, you can check out my breakdown on Gomez's war against Salvador Sanchez to see another battle of undefeated legends. Gomez was one of the very few fighters who was able to discipline Zarate for his aggressive positioning, and since he himself is so accomplished, it does little to diminish Zarate's style. But it does serve as a great example of how every possible style has weaknesses that go with its strengths. Zarate's style was brash, but beautiful. It afforded him otherworldly punching power, especially when you consider his weight class. But remember, those big impacts were supported by an intimate understanding of the sweet science. Distance, positioning, balance. If you want to understand the subtleties of punching, study Carlos Zarate. And through mastering the fundamental positions of footwork and posture, the knockouts will happen all on their own. From the modern martial artist, this has been David Christian, wishing you happy training.